Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris, here to preview two NIT games. Vanderbilt is going to host Yale. The Commodores disappointed that they didn't get in the NCAA Tournament. Thought they had a good case, but it didn't break their way. Florida not expecting to get in the NCAA Tournament. Lost Colin Castleton, who has played okay at times in his absence. Florida will host UCF in its NIT game. Let's start with Vandy, Blake. Commodores have played pretty good ball since losing Liam Robbins, played well in the SEC tournament till running out of gas. Against Texas A&M on Saturday, it faces a Yale team that's been coached by James Jones, I think, since 2000. He has had Yale at or near the top of the Ivy for a while now. Yale's got 5 guys who score in double figures, including Matt Noling, their leading scorer, who's missed some time. Yale shoots 36% from 3. Yale was a team that the computers liked, I think, had in the top 75 or so. Most of the predictives did, and would have been one of those 13s in the NCAA tournament that you don't want to play. That's what Vanderbilt will get on Tuesday night.
Yeah, let's hold on a second because I think we're skipping over the lead here. Vanderbilt's a 2 seed in the NIT. And we didn't really talk about this in our live bracket reaction because we were too busy breaking down the teams that got into the NCAA tournament. But I do think it's worth a discussion quickly on Vanderbilt not just being left out, but quite honestly, not that close. Probably the 6th to 8th team out of the field. You know, we saw the first 4 out, which was Rutgers, Oklahoma State, North Carolina, Clemson. If you look just by the NIT seeding, which usually is a pretty good barometer of, again, where teams were at in the NCAA tournament picture, Vanderbilt gets a 2. Who are the other 2s? Colorado. I don't remember who else, but I remember North Carolina didn't play in the NIT. They chose not to. So that's also something to consider. But I mean, I guess that's worth a quick discussion. Not first 4 out, you know, maybe the 2nd, 3rd, 4th team out at that point. We don't know exactly, so we're just speculating. But I mean, that's got to be frustrating. I think if you're Vanderbilt, going into the NIT, I think Jerry Stackhouse, the kind of coach that I think we know can put a chip on his shoulder and his team's shoulder. Sort of the playing up the disrespect and that kind of stuff of not just not getting in, but also maybe not being as close as you would have thought they would have been. So I didn't want to skip over that because I think if there's Vanderbilt fans watching, my guess is they care more about that right this second than they do the NIT. So did want to just mention that quickly.
Yeah, let me give you my thoughts. It was clear when I went back and looked, because I had done a very elaborate mock of what I thought the field should look like based on the things the committee says it considers. And it was obvious to me that the conference tournaments really did not matter outside of who won them in getting the auto bid. For instance, I thought Penn State had a pretty good case as a 9 seed, maybe an 8 seed. Penn State got an 11. Penn State lost to Purdue by that much on Championship Sunday. Texas A&M got to the title game of the SEC tournament, thought it deserved to be a 5 seed. It got a 7. Vanderbilt made a nice run in the SEC tournament, beat LSU, which didn't really matter, beat Kentucky, which should have mattered. I thought that was the thing that barely got Vanderbilt over the edge to get in, but it didn't. I think why? A lot of people have blamed the net, but here's the thing. Vanderbilt would have been 41 in the RPI had they used that. That's the metric the committee used to use. Still would have been a borderline team. I think probably had a decent chance to get in, but really what killed Vanderbilt, Blake, was 13 losses, and 3 of them in quads 3 and 4. That and the committee really not considering what Vanderbilt did in the SEC tournament in Nashville ended up being what not only got Vanderbilt out, but did not get Vanderbilt even a 1 seed in the NIT.
Yep. Well, that's I think that's as good of an explanation as any. And the flawed net and all of its chaos that it causes, call it what it is. I mean, that didn't help. So yeah, so there you go. There are just some thoughts on that, because I know for many fans it's Monday morning, and that's the explanation they want to hear. They want to know why they're not in the tournament. We had already said we didn't think they had a great shot, and you could tell early on as the bracket was being announced that was probably not going to happen, especially as soon as you saw Mississippi State and Dayton. So, yeah, but meanwhile, they are going to play an NIT game against Yale, and it's kind of interesting because I feel like James Jones has been mentioned as a possible head coaching candidate for Vanderbilt for about a decade. Feels like anytime they've had an opening, James Jones is always someone people throw in the mix because he's a good coach, and I completely understand why. He's done a really good job. They've been at Yale since 2000, and talk about maybe eventually moves, but I don't know, man. He's been there a long time, and he certainly built that program, into a team that's had some success. And what they went 21-8. You mentioned earlier, lost to Princeton in the tournament championship game there, but I mean, yeah, it's so hard to know what you're going to get in the NIT, and I think it's always it is. I mean, like I said, I would expect Vanderbilt to probably be motivated because I think Jerry Stackhouse does a good job at that. I mean, we know. I think that's something that I think he will be able to put that edge in them because I think they already had it leading into the SEC tournament and a team with something to prove. It's just, can you get up knowing that it's not the NCAA tournament? And do you have that same sort of momentum and that same motivation? That's always the question. But yeah, I mean, for Yale, sort of what you expect. It's hard to look at Yale and just compare numbers statistically because, you do have to keep in perspective that they're in the Ivy League and they're not playing in the SEC. And, but you can't look at sort of common teams, somewhat. They played the season. They played that game against Kentucky in early December, lost by 10 there. They played Butler, lost by 10, played Colorado, lost by 3. So they were competitive in, their power conference type games. So I think that's worth noting. But yeah, I don't really have a great feel on this, to be honest. I mean, it's a team that's efficient across the board, but can they, play their style efficiently against Vanderbilt? Honestly, Chris, I think it's a matter of which Vanderbilt team you get. And if you get the good one, the one that's motivated, I think they'll come out and take care of business. But it's just, I think it's always hard to know for sure in these kind of NIT type games.
Yeah, it is. I think if Vanderbilt plays with the edge that Jerry Stackhouse had when he confronted the SEC Network broadcasting crew,
he was fired up
for not picking his team to beat Kentucky, then Vanderbilt's probably not a team you want to play in the SEC tournament. If it's a team that is disappointed for not being there, then maybe you get a different team. By the way, Yale outscored teams by about 13.3 a game this year, went 21-8. Now look, 2 of those games were against Sarah Lawrence and John Jay, which are legitimate schools.
Is that a band?
I
Sarah
don't know.
Lawrence and John Jay. I think
Schools. That's a
I think
joke.
they had a hit
but
in the early 2000s.
Yeah, when you're playing 5-on-1, you win by scores like 96-41 and 112-55. So that helped the scoring margin a good bit. But could have been bands. Would you
What
listen
about
to
John
John Jay or
Smith?
to Sarah Lawrence first?
They didn't play John Smith. Okay.
They haven't played John Smith.
All right. Just making sure. By the way, no knock on Sarah Lawrence or John Jay. They're great people. But yeah,
And
I
good
don't
schools.
probably not a lot we could take away from those games necessarily. So
Yeah, there were 695 and 602 people in attendance at those. So not a packed house for those ball games. All right, we'll get off our rabbit trail of
we'll get the game tape of those and watch them before the game. But for now,
yeah,
that's all we got.
I'll work on that. Okay, UCF and Florida. Florida continued to play hard without Colin Castleton. Played well at times, but let's not kid ourselves. Not the same team without the guy that was hands down their best player. UCF at one point was sort of in that at-large mix, maybe, maybe a month ago. Finished 18-14, 8-10 in Conference USA. Missouri beat UCF at the buzzer back in, when was it? Mid-December, I think. UCF's got 4 guys who average double figures in Taylor Hendricks, CJ Kelly, Ithiel Horton, and Darius Johnson. Florida, of course, if the Gators can hit outside shots, they're still a little bit dangerous. We saw good guard play at times. We saw good things from Riley Kugel, Myron Jones. When he shows up and has a good game, Florida can be a little bit of a danger. But I think for Florida, just getting to the NIT has to be a little bit of a victory after the Castleton injury and a pretty tough pre-conference schedule.
Yeah, it's been a weird season for Florida because I mean, to me, there's one of those they're one of those teams that like just I have no idea what to really expect of them in an NIT type setting because you've not really know what to expect from them all season, even with Castleton. I mean, they were just a team that they got some momentum going there for a little while, but beyond that, I just hadn't had a great feel on who Florida is outside of Castleton. And even with him, like I said, they were playing better defensively, but you still didn't have a great feel of just what that Florida team was or could be. And so, yeah, I mean, I have no idea. Again, it's a matter of motivation here. And, obviously these in-state regional type games in the NIT, we get those a lot. And, so I think that adds to the excitement a little bit and gives UCF a little motivation heading into this one. Um, but I mean, that's a team UCF, right? Shoots the 3-point shot is where they, I think, get the bulk of their points. And so it's a matter of seeing what Florida can do. Florida's been pretty good defensively, as we said, but a lot of those numbers factor in Colin Castleton, right? And how much easier that makes them as a whole defensively. Without him, they've had their issues, especially, when you looked at them playing against teams like Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, Vanderbilt, which Alabama, I mean, anybody can say that. But I think that's just the question going into this one is just what are you going to get out of Florida on the defensive side? But I mean, look, we're talking about the NIT here, not to knock either team playing in it, but it's just this is the biggest crapshoot, I think, tournament. You just don't ever know what motivation level you're going to get with some of these teams. And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, Chris, I have no idea what to expect in this game. I think it should be a pretty close game because of what UCF can do. That's a pretty decent rebounding team too. So I don't know. I don't know. It's like we said we're going to do this NIT thing, but at the same time, it's like we certainly don't have the greatest feel on projecting matchups because it is the NIT, and I think it's just been a disappointing season for Florida. So can Todd Golden put them in a position? Can he get them motivated enough to really be all in on trying to win the NIT? Maybe he can. But I just without Castleton, they've been a hard team to put a finger on because I don't really know what their identity is without him. So,
by the way, a couple housekeeping notes. Florida is a 4 seed and would play the winner of Oregon, UC Irvine. Of course, that would be at Oregon if Oregon were to win its game. Vanderbilt was announced as a 3 seed.
how does that happen?
In the review. Well,
how
here's my
that
guess.
happen?
My guess is there was a bracket made that included UNC. And maybe Vanderbilt was the first 3 and got moved to the last 2. Or maybe it's just the NIT and nobody cares. But in any case, there are brackets out there on mainstream sites that still list Vanderbilt as a 3 seed. And I went to the NIT's official site to clarify this. Vanderbilt is officially the 2. That game is going to be 9 Eastern on ESPNU Tuesday night. And if it wins, it would get the winner of Michigan and Toledo, and it would host that game. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Chris. Good job.
It's March Madness when you can't even get the seeds right.
Yeah. I hope Vanderbilt and Florida have success. I think Vanderbilt's got more of a chip on its shoulder probably if it's out to prove something here. I mean, they can win the whole thing, but it's just can you get that same? I think they can. I think again, you don't play in it if you don't expect to have that. You go the route of North Carolina, right, and just say, hey, we're not playing. They chose to play, and I think knowing that staff, I think they'll have them ready. It's just again, it's a different deal. But I do feel like they will have something to prove. So I would expect Vanderbilt to play well in this tournament. Florida, I couldn't tell you. So.
Yeah, and Vanderbilt, I know no Liam Robbins, but Vanderbilt won its first 3 games without Liam Robbins. If you include 4 minutes at Kentucky not playing in that game, which is basically what it was, until Vanderbilt just ran out of gas against Texas A&M. So if you want to factor in the Robbins absence, does that make a difference? Yeah, it does. I mean, of course, he's their best player, but Vanderbilt found a way to play pretty well and beat some good teams in Mississippi State and Kentucky without him.
Yep. They did. So we'll see what happens. Tips off, as you said, on Tuesday, and yeah, we'll just see. I mean, it's basketball, man. That's the I don't know if they trademark that. It's basketball. I don't know if that's the best
It's
line to
basketball, man.
get people intrigued, but that's the way I use. That's the line I use. It's basketball. So
Did it take you a long time to think that one up?
yeah, that was a tough one. That's probably the
You
best
slept
motto
on
I
that one.
got. So
What I'm going to come with today?
the NIT, it's basketball. I like that. It flows well. I think they should use that. So please credit me if
Lose you to
using
someone's
that
marketing department.
motto. So, anyways, there you go. We've got a lot more stuff. We'll talk about the NIT as Florida and Vanderbilt advance, if they advance. But obviously, a lot of our stuff will be NCAA tournament based this week. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Just we've got too much NCAA tournament stuff to do, but that's a good problem to have when the SEC gets 8 teams in the field. So
yeah, we'll see if our voice is still here by the end of Monday.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Well, of course, if we're here to preview the NIT, we're going to preview the SEC and the NCAA tournament. We'll have separate videos on every team and its first round matchup. We'll continue to do those as long as the SEC is playing in the tournament, and who knows, maybe some bonus coverage too. Best way to get it all, hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing. Hit the like button if you don't mind. That helps our analytics a bit. Anyway, he is Blake Lovell. I am Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris, and we'll see you soon.